Let's start the long-awaited iDRA RABBAH. We're on page Kuf Nomen Aleph. If you're working on the large sefer of the Matok Midavash, up at the top of the page, we'll read the top of the page and then the light print down below. So the Zohar says V'ta'ana. So we learn Kad Tzaddik Beru'usa the Mibre Oraisa. So when it came into his will and his desire to create the Torah, Tmirel Trey Al Pishnin. So he was hidden for 2,000 years. For Afka, then it came out. Miad Amra Kameh, so immediately what came out said before the master. Man the boy la'askanach de me'ebed, he who wants to be rebuilt and to function, Yisake bekadmisa tikfikunoi. So the first thing he has to do is start a rebuilding process, but he doesn't say where. So now the Matok Midavash. The Matok Midavash down below it in the light print says V'kei lamado. So also we have learned. Yeah, we're working. Kasha'alo ha'oros ma'atzman b'sod man baratzon ein sof baruch. Now here bracha comes as a result of my nukvin. My nukvin is those things which we lack down below, and it's the basis of our prayer, basis of our learning Torah in order to be able to try to reach an understanding of what the Torah is, to reach an understanding of what we don't know and how to behave. But the prayer is really to fill our needs. This is called my nukvin, female waters, where we're bringing up from the depths of our emptiness. Originally, for bracha to come, you have to have my nukvin, because the things have to come down. They come back down as a result of he's going to describe this as a yichud at the very highest level, which is the meanings of mating at the very highest levels. That is of Ak, of the relationship to the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, as if it was possible to say how that could be. And it brings down a bracha through different channels down back to us. So he says that originally, though, since there was no man to make a prayer, there was no one to study Torah. So the Eibishter himself did this. The Eibishter, which we use the word, normal your word here at the beginning of the Etz Chaim, is the Ma'atzel, he who caused things to develop outwards and to develop. So he says that this was happened through the will of the Ein Sof by himself. Legron yichud chub da'ak kanal. So chub da'ak means the Ab Sag is called also the Ab Sag da'ak. And just remember the words or listen to the words. It means the highest level of ak, that male part, that female part at the highest level possible. What's the difference in spirituality between female and male? Also, why do we see that sometimes the male is called a female and the female is called a male? Because the spirituality is no physicality, so we know that I'm a man, right, and I'm married to a woman, right? I have male, female children. So that's the world that we live in. In the spiritual world, what do we understand as a concept of male? And this is really important too. The concept of the male is he who gives or originates and is a giver. The female concept is she who receives. So it could be that Bina, which is the receiver from Chachma, and which you just mentioned, Chub, which means Chachma and Bina, that Bina originally from Chachma is a female. But when Bina gives to Zaz, or Anpin, which is a layer outside or below her, so then she becomes a giver, and that's like a male function. Because in spirituality, everything is interchangeable, except that what it was, it still is, and what it's going to be is going to change also. But the original is still there. So he came to his thought, L'mibre araisa kedei laholid es shem ma. Now he says, when to create the world, Torah is also known by the name Ma, which is Yud Vav Daled K Aleph Vav Aleph Vav K Aleph, and it's called the Ma HaChadosh. Now, in the Sod class that we're learning, we've heard this, and this is going to go in Sod, so I'm going to start pushing this only in the Sod class. So that the Sod here is that there is a creation out of the Metzach of the forehead, that is the forehead of Adam Kadmon, comes a set of lights which are called Ma'chadash, Shuhu B'chinas Zah, and Nikra Torah Shebechsav. This Ma'chadash is the same idea as Zah. Its purpose is to build the female aspect, the Nook. So he says, Shachoyu Tomer ad shekadmo lo shnei olamos. This process of bringing out these lights from the Metzach of Ak is a process that had to wait until two different universes came before it. Shehem Olam Akudim, which is the Olam of binding, which is the beginning of the making of a Kli. Volam Hanikudim, and Olam Nikudim, which is another world, which comes, we see this in the Parsha by Yaakov in his dreams. So Shekol Echad, who parts of Sholem, each one of them becomes a complete system by themselves. And we use the word Olam here. Sholem bebein Eser Spheros, Ve'eser the Aleph, Ad Sha'alo Elef, so you could take 10 times 10 times 10, and you get 1,000, and so therefore we at least see the origin of the concept of a letter, which is Aleph, but also we see that it comes to the 1,000 bechinos of different aspects. So he says a little side note that he writes in here. It's interesting to know that when you see the word Shana, that's written in that you see in Hebrew, it's like Alpayim Shana, 2,000 years. He says Kishana, which is the number 355, is the same gematria as the word Sphira. Sphira is also 355. Shana means Sphira. And as Rabbi Memran said to me, he says, whenever you see that two things are equivalent in gematria, you know they're the same, there's a truth between them, that they're both true. So that's Shana and Sphira, the same thing. Va'afka v'hotzi memakom ha'timira, so this place that was hidden. Now, what does it mean by hidden? That when we see the manifestation of the worlds that have greater physicality than Ak, and when we see them, then we realize that what came before them, and here he's talking about the Olam Atiko in the world of the rebuilding, which is where we are. He says that before that, there were these two words called Akudim and Nikudim, and they were hidden. They're hidden from us now. So he brought out from this place, which is Adam Kadmon, this concept of the Shem Ma, this Ma HaChadash, which is the agent, the catalyst for rebuilding. So he said, Miyad Omar Hashem Ma, so Hashem Ma, so now Ma, that came out of the forehead of Adam Kadmon, says to the Ak, from which it came, Misha Rotsa the Sakein as Hashem ben Hanishbar. So we say that was a shvira, a breaking, the breaking of the vessels. The breaking of the vessels refers to the breaking of the vessels created in the Olam and Nikudim. That left a lot of Kedusha stranded in an area which was created called Bia, which is Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. The Lasso says Olam Atzilos, and then if you want to make up a world that is higher than that, you're going to have to start someplace from these broken pieces, and you're going to create a olam called Atzilus. So he called Davar Yisaken. Before you can rebuild anything else, you have to Yisaken as parts of Atik. Shuhu Tikkuno V'lov Sho Da'ak, which is what you have to, you're building a parts of, which is called Atik. Atik means the ancient one. So Atik, which is the rebuilding, and a covering over Ak. Shabo mislavesh timitibura lamato. Where does Atik located? He's located from the belly button, from the navel of Ak, and going downwards. Vuha rishon lekol partsufi atzilos. This is the very first of the partsufim of Atzilos. Now we go on to the next piece in the Zohar. There's a section in the Zohar which is called the Sifra de Tzniuta. Tzniuta means hidden or modest or covered up in some way. Always understand the concept of Tznius, which is modesty. And there's a Pirush from the Vilna Gaon, which is very famous, very pithy. It's very short. All the things that the Vilna Gaon says, up to my ability of knowing it, is always very short. So he said, "B'tzniusa de Sifra Atika Datikin." There's something called the ancient of the ancient one. Sitra de Sitrin, the hidden of the hidden one. Tomer de Tmirim, again another word for hidden inside of hiddenness. Is Stakein v'izdamein. So this is built and prepared. So let's see what the light print in the in the Matok B'Davasha. It says, L'mandacha b'sodus hagnuzim b'sifra ditzniusa. So we learn from the secrets that are hidden inside of the Sifra ditzniusa. It says in parenthesis that this Sifra ditzniusa can be found at the end of Parshas Truma. Atika da'atikin, there's this concept that Zakein azakenim shuhu ak, the ancient of ancient ones, the elder of all the elders, which is called ak. Because what we're seeing is that whatever came first is called older, right? Doesn't mean necessarily time, like we understand time, but it means the previous or the original. Shuhu atik yoter ma'atikim. So this is ancient, more ancient than any of the ancients. Shehem partsufi atik ve'erik anpin. Who are these ancients? These ancients are called partsufim, which are called by the name of Atik and Erik Anpin. Who nistar v'ne'elam alfila ma'atik ve'erik Anpin shagam heim nistarim. So Atik, we have a concept in Atik which is called the Reish of the Lo Isyada, that the head of Atik, that's the Gimel Rishonos, that the three upper spheros of Atik are not knowable. Reish of the Lo Isyada. It's the Reish that's not knowable head, because it is so hidden from us that we can't know that. But in Erik Anpin, which is actually the lower level of Atik, Erik Anpin is also hidden from us to a great, even though that it represents Etzilut or Etzilus and everything that comes out of Etzilus, but nonetheless it's completely hidden in Panemius of all the Olamos. This Ak is hidden from them. That's how far away it is. Shalo hisigu bo v'lo hilbisha oso elamitibur lamata, because they not able to actually reach it, not able to appreciate or draw from it, except from its navel going downwards. Again, this anatomy that we're talking about is not a real anatomy. It's not the anatomy of a person, but it's a sight reference. It's a reference that we can see, get an idea of how things work from our world. Even if it's clothed on them from the navel of Atik Yamem going downward, but even so, that they actually are touching him, so to speak. But even so, it's still hidden from them. Even though that they're called hidden, but this is even hidden from them because their heads don't reach any place where they can actually appreciate what's going on in the head of Ak. Because they're only covering the outside, the kelim, the vessels of Ak. But the lights that are inside of Ak, which we've said before, the light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, even Atik and Erik Anpin never reach them, can't appreciate what's in the Panemius, the inside of Adam Kadmon. So he wants to say like this, he's paraphrasing, and he wants to say that Ak is doing like what this new name Ma, the Ma Chadash, is asking or saying. That is, there's two ways to look at this. If we say that we had a cylinder, and this cylinder is surrounded by another cylinder, and we have drawings that we've shown of that, and then we say that they're actually touching in some way or they're surrounding in some way. Let me see, make sure I got the right. So we have two different concepts, two different ways you can look at it. One, you could look at the upper cylinder. Let's see if I could go like this. That the upper cylinder, here it could be like this, is like this, is mislavesh inside of the lower cylinder. Right? So this is one world, the world of Ak, and it's inside here. Let's say it goes down here. Let's say that the upper pencil, this pencil represents right here is the navel of Ak. You could look at it either as this going down, or you could look at it as this going up. Right? It's the same thing, but everything is in erech and everything is in relative, depending on your point of view or how you're wanting to look at it. So he says, "Nishinisakim in Islavish parts of Ak, because what's he trying to say?" So you say, well, what happens when a lower parts of surrounds and upper parts of? He says ki halavush v'hakisui, so the covering, the garment that covers, Shala Oros Al Yonim, Hu Giluyim V'Tikunam. Now you would think that I'll translate it first. He says they're actually their revelation, and their rebuilding of them. So how does that work? How could it be that you're taking something, you're covering it over? How are you building it that way? Because as a result of covering over this light, you're making it possible for the lower worlds to be able to receive some essence of that light. Because the light is so powerful in its nature, which is the nature of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, which is the nature of nothingness, the nature of perfection, for perfection without limitation. And as a result of that, if things are not limited, then it's not possible for elements that are more limited than that to be able to receive them. So he said, "Al Yedei his lavshus azeh." So through this covering over of Eric Anpin, hayochul shefo lihizdamein. So then it made it possible for his shefa to become prepared for the himatze b'olomo shalamata b'menu, in worlds that are less. So in a few words, are less than him. In other words, more physical worlds. So in other words, in order for us to receive the light of the Ein Sof, we have to cover it with words. We have to cover it with concepts. We have to cover it with different physical things that we know how to use. Because if we don't, there's no way for us to be able to receive it. It's just like we say that, I was seeing a piece of Torah today, that there's a pasuk what has to do with Har Sinai. It says, Al Tigshu al Kohanim. Don't let the Kohanim come close. So why not? Because what happens is that you get closer to that light, you cease to exist. Because in the sense, you may exist in a spiritual sense, but not in a physical sense. And what the Abish is trying to do is he's trying to make a vessel here in this world, this low place, that could receive his light. That can only happen if the light could be limited. Let's see, there's a little bit here on the bottom. Let me see if my time is working here, okay? Lo tomer she'al yedei hislavshus is damen shefu mamish. So let's not say like this, that you're creating the flow of the bracha as a result of clothing the upper light. Ela kolomer ishtakach shenimsa v'yakolam alomos lehanos mishefo. What happens is by coming near to it and covering it over, then it acts as a filter, but the filter itself is a light, becomes a light. It's a form of light that's less than the light that it's covering. And as a result of that, on the other side of the filter, there's less light again, could be filtered again, and filtered again, and filtered again. And there's a series of curtains that make it possible for us to be able to receive the light of the Ein Sof. Otherwise, it's no world. So he says, V'lo ishtakach, aval v'lo nimsa the gamri, so that therefore we find some shefa that's coming out, but it's not completely found. Ki ein yecholin the kaba b'meno ela ketzad sa'ara, so that even though that this world that say this is the Ein Sof, and I'm now covering it with something that's thicker and more coarse, more physical, it doesn't mean that I have it. It's just that I have an essence of it. On the other side is an essence of that light. Mishum duhu atik datikim lefishuhu zaken zekenim, because it is the ancient of the ancient ones, the old of the old. V'gadlo ma'alaso ad ma'o, that is a tremendous high level. So now, let's say we turn the page, we're on vacation on base, and I want to try to go through these two so we can start with the new place in the next iDRA Shir. So it's Kachad Sabed de Sabin. So it's like one grandfather of grandfathers. Atik Ma'atikim, the ancient one of the ancient ones. Tamer B'Tamirim, also hidden, of the hidden ones. If a tikunoi, so when the world is going to be rebuilt, yadia v'lo yadia, so there's something there, we understand that whatever, but it's not knowable. Mari the Hivor, it is a master of whiteness. Kasu, basuma, it's like, I don't know what kasu means. Here he says it means basuma, like blind. V'chezu busita, and it has an appearance, let me see, of a torch. The anpui, in the face. Yasiv el kursia, the shvivim, that it's sitting on a throne of hot coals, the akafi alone, in order to cover over them, not cover over them, to bend them down, to humble them. Now, this is a very hard pasuk by itself. It's impossible to understand it. So the Matok B'Devash really brings the Uri. And so what we're going to see, let's see what he says, because I didn't do a great job of translating that. And he says, Umaska the Farish in Yane Eric Anpin. Now he's going to start to try to explain what Eric Anpin is. So Eric Anpin, he says, Anikra Atika, it's called Ancient One. So he says, Kamat B'Kol Ha'idra, so that more or less in the Idra, when he uses the word Atik, we're going to understand this is referring to Eric Anpin. The Fi Shahazayin Tachtonos the Atik, because the lower 7 spheros of Atik, every parts of has 10 spheros, every one of them has 10 spheros, and so on and so forth. But let's say, just say Atik has 10 spheros, the lower 7, which are called, we call this the Zat, the Atik, Meluvash is called parts of Shalarich. So the Zat of Atik, which is completely hidden, more or less, the only part that we can understand is called the Zat, is the Zayin Tachtonos, because again, we said that the Gar, which is the Gimel Rishonish, which is Kesach Chochmah Bina, or Chochmah Bina Das, depending on how we look at it, this is called the Reisha de Lo Isya, that's the Reisha that's not knowable. So we have all kinds of sfekus about what it is or where it comes from, but it's like we penetrate so deeply into something which is so fine and so nothing that we can't really even attach words to it. Of Amar Shahu, Kachad Saba, Kazaken as a Kanim, like a grandfather's a grandfather, old of the old. V'ratzona Lomar, who Zaken Yosem Abba Ve'ima, so he wants to say, introducing more words, that is older or previous to what we call Abba and Ima, which are Chochmah Bina. Shagam Heim Zakenim Klapezun, because they are also ancient or elders in relationship to their children, which are called Zachar V'Nuk, or Zer Anpin and his Nuk, and his Nekeva. V'chein, Hu Atik Yoser Mishar Atikim V'Nistar Mishar HaNistarim. So therefore he is more hidden, more older, more previous, and more hidden than anything else that is hidden. Neket kan shlosha ta'orim keneged shlosha rishonas to Eric Anpin. So now we have said here there are 3 different sets of adjectives that we're using to describe the 3 beginning spheros of Eric Anpin, these are their names: Shehem Gulgalta, Vavira, Umucha Stima. These are the names. So the Gulgalta is the skull. Then there's an area inside of the head, the Gar of Eric Anpin, which is called the Avira, the air. And there's another place which is called Mucha Stima, the hidden, the closed up Moach, brain, central nervous system. So he says, Uvitikunu umalbu shavushav shehin abba ve'ima, and when it's rebuilt, and when it is clothed by another partzuf, which is what is the next partzuf, either down or outside of Eric Anpin, it's going to be called Abba ve'ima. Haraso v'shafo yudua v'lo yudua. Then what's coming out of Eric Anpin is known, but on the other hand, it's not. What does it mean? Kolomar shemasigin oisa rak b'yediyas mu'atis v'lo yediyah amitis. We know about it, but we only know about a little bit of it, but not a complete understanding, not a true, complete understanding of what that light is. So here we have the parts of called Atik, inside of the parts of which is called Eric Anpin, which is inside of the parts of which is called Abba Ve'ima. And he said, Eric Anpin Nikra Bal Halovan. So Eric Anpin is called the master of whiteness. Yehu Tachlis Harachamim V'Chasadim. What does whiteness mean? The word white refers to mercy and to chesed. Uvama Eric Anpin Lavan. And what way is he white? V'amar B'Saros Rosho. The hairs of his head are white. V'dikna, and of his beard. V'dikna Kadisha, and his holy beard, the delay. Amakasim Rosho V'Banov, that cover over his head, and that is the hairs cover over his head and go down actually the sides of his head and he has a beard. Now this beard, again, it's not my beard. It's the beard of something, a spiritual force. So he said, V'gam mare toar panav, so the appearance of his face, who chiver v'tachlis arachimim, is all white, and is ultimately not stained by any other color, and is ultimately mercy. Ki ba'or p'nei melech chayim, because ba'or, in the eye, in light, is the face of the living king. V'omar, so he says, Ki Erik Anpin barachma v'gedolim, so he, in his great mercy, Yoshev al kisei shel shvivi eish, he sits on a throne of coals of fire, Shuhu kisei hadin, which means that there is din in the world. We understand there's suffering in the world. We understand that our lives are short. We understand all the different problems that we have in the world, and these problems are reflected in what we call dinim. Kolomer hu mislavesh ba'aba ve'ima v'zun. So we understand that Erik Anpin is inside of Abba Ve'ima, and he's also inside of Zachar V'Nuk. Now I said before, as repeat again, that you have Atik inside of Erik Anpin. Erik Anpin is inside of Abba Ve'ima. Abba Ve'ima are inside of Zachar V'Nuk. The way that it actually works in a certain way is that we said that Atik reaches down into the Muach through the head of Erik Anpin. His Zion Tachdonas of Atik run down to the chest of Erik Anpin. And then Erik Anpin, from approximately his neck, or the shoulders, where they usually say it, is Abba Ve'ima, cover that. And Zachar V'Nuk cover from his navel downwards. So all different kinds of relationships, lower levels of the light that's inside of him, but he covers all of Atzilus. He is Atzilus, in the Panemius of Atzilus. Baba Ve'ima V'zon sheyesh ba'acharayim shalachem shemos elokem, and in the backs and the fronts of Erik Anpin, of all of these partsufim, there are two different concepts here that he's introduced that he's saying are very important for us to know. One is called the concept of panim, and the other one's called the panim of acharayim. So in the Kabbalah, they call it panim v'ach, because the acharayim is full of dinim, full of punishments and different kinds of problems. This I've seen in the Yitzchak ben Zachary said, a person should really be careful about putting his hands around the back of his around his back. This is very common now that people pray as like in a military stance with their hands resting on their buttocks, more or less. And this is supposed to be like an attention kind of thing, and it's a very common that you see in yeshivas now. But the hands are unusual in the fact that they move. They can move to the back, they can move to the front, they can move up, they can move down. They represent, as we're going to see in the class on Sod, as we understand that the hands have unusual qualities. I think that it's probably in Shar Atik. So we'll see, it's coming up soon. Not Shar Atik, rather Shar Hakudim. And we'll see this coming up, is that the hands have unusual properties of bringing bracha. As the Kohen lift up his hands, right? Because when you lift up your hands, you're bringing up to the gar, the highest levels of radiation. And then you can bring them down. You can bring them down into the rest of the body. Bring them around the back is a dangerous place. The back is a dangerous place, is the place of denim. That's why he says over here. Let me see if I just lost the place. I went on a whole rant here. He said, "V'gam b'amare Torah panov hu chiva v'tachlis arachimim." So when the Kohen blesses, he says, "V'yisa Hashem panov elecha," that Hashem should lift up His face onto you, or to you. Never the back. The back is full of denim. So we say that b'or pnei melech chayim, that here you say the or comes off of the face of the living God. So let me think. This is where I was. V'amar Erik Anpin barachma v'gedolim Yoshev al kisei shel shvivei eish. So he sits on a throne of coals of fire. Shuhu kisei hadin, which is the throne of din. Din means judgments. Kolomer hu mislavesh ba'Abba Ve'ima v'zun, that he's inside of Abba Ve'ima and the Zachar V'Nuk. Sheyesh ba'acharayim shalachem, because in the back of Abba Ve'ima, but more in the backs of Zachar V'Nuk, because they're Anpin and Malchus, Shemos Elokim were the names of the name Elokim. Elokim means Dav Shehem Bechinas Din, which is the concept of Din. Okay, we're running a little long, because I got a little bit off. I had to say a couple of things today. Lahachniyim v'lahamtik dinehim, in order to humble down those dinim. He's inside of them, radiating pure kindness, pure rachamim. Let's do one more. Arba ma'a alpi almin. So there are 400,000 different universes. Is pashet ki varva ki vura the Golgalta the Reshoy. So out of this spreads out the whiteness that comes of the skull of the head of Eric Anpin. Umanhir the high kivarta, and it shines out from this to this whiteness. Yarse tzedikaya the alma the asi, so the tzedikim will inherit the alma the asi, arba man almim, and that's the reason why it says that they will inherit 400 different worlds. Hadahu dichsev, this is what the pasuk says. Arba meya shekel kesef over the socher. There's a whole piece in the Ari about this particular phrase, is that it's 400 interchangeable coins of money that a merchant would be able to exchange. Let's look real quickly because I'm way over time. So it says further, down here in the light print at the bottom of the Matok Devash, the Matok Devash brings the Re, and he says like this. Arba Meos Elef Olamos, there are 400,000 different universes. Shehem Adala Kivarte Heyotzim Arba Yudin the Shem Av. Let's look at the say Shem Av. The Shem Av is Yud Vav Dalet Ke Yud Vav Ke Yud. There are 4 Aleph there. 4 Yudin there. Yud Vav Dal is 1. Ke Yud 2. Vav Yud Vav, there's a third one. And then of Ke Yud again, there's another one. So you have 4 different Yuds. So he says, so there are actually in the head of Eric Anpin, there are 4 different white spots, white face, white places in the head of Eric Anpin. What was he talking about? He says that there are bundles of hair in Eric Anpin, and in between the bundles there are spaces, and those spaces are white. So there are actually 13 chivarte. There are 13 different white places. Shehem oros levanim amaforashem lehalon. We were going to go into these are white hairs, white lights rather, that are in between the hairs that spread down through the face of Eric Anpin, because in the Eitz Chaim and Leshem and lots of different places go into great detail about the beauty, the gorgeousness of this. Of Eric Anpin him is Rabin La'alofim. Now Eric Anpin is a level where everything goes back to after thousands. V'nikroyim almim, they're called universes, the worlds. The Haina Oros Ne'olamim. So what's the word almim? Almim, olam, is actually a word of means hidden, because elam means hidden. So he says, V'nispashta Oros Shalachavarta Shalagogalta. So what happens is that this whiteness of the skull that's coming of the skull, it spreads Gogalta Harosha B'tzada Orif to Eric Anpin. So it comes out, and some of it comes down the back of the head of Eric Anpin. Nispashto ha'orosh shel chivarta shel Gogalta Rosha B'tzada Orif to Eric Anpin. So that part that's coming down on the back of the head of Eric Anpin. Ma'aras Elu Hadala Chivarta, and there are 4 different white spaces that are coming down the back of the head of Eric Anpin. Yoshim Tzadikim Shehem Binyana Anikras Alma the Asi. I said that wrong. He says that Yorshim Tzadikim, the Tzadikim, are able to inherit from this. Shehem Bibina, this goes into Bina. Anikras Alma the Asi. Ha'ara Mo'atis Shehirak Arba Meas Oros Ne'olamim, and light becomes very limited as it comes back down towards Bina, which is also known as Ima, sometimes known as Yisrael Sabav Devuna, and they are able to receive it at that place, because remember we said that Eric Anpin is covered by them, and the transfer place between one place and between one parts of the neck is through the back, because that's how they're connected. So he says, this is what the pasuk says. This is the 400 different white lights that are coming down, because the Havaya the Av, as we said before, has 4 Yudin in it, a Nizkar B'Gematria Chesed. that the gematria of the word chesed is also 72, which refers to Av. Bechinas chesed hu kesef, so chesed is also known as kesef. So kesef hu lovan, which is white, haromez al oros hivarto, which refer to the lights of the whiteness that's coming off of the back of the head of Eric Anp. That's it for today.